All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me here. My name is Jamie Smith. Um, I am the manager of Linetco. We are the infrastructure division for BAASS. This presentation today is on BAASS Cloud and hosted Sage 300. So I manage the IT and technology groups for BAASS, and I manage the IT division at which is Linetco. We are an MSP, an IT service provider, and we manage the hosting services for BAASS. Pre-COVID times, I would have worked in the Thornhill, Oakville, and Burlington offices. And my team on the Linetco and infrastructure side would have shared those same offices with BAASS and worked with the BAASS ERP and technical teams and ops teams. So I'm here to deliver the presentation because when it comes, getting into the conversation about cloud, most of it does not revolve around actually the Sage 300 ERP. Most of it is in some way, some form of a technical, semi-technical question. And because my team manages the infrastructure, therefore most of the questions on that side of it are aimed towards me and my group. And this, hence why I am here to do this presentation here today. Small housekeeping. This session here is planned for 25 minutes in total. I'm hoping for 20 minutes of my presentation time and then about 5 minutes.
We see the presenter view at this point.
You see the presenter view at this point.
Right. That's right. Perfect. Thank you.
I apologize. So again, coming back to this, I will have about 20 minutes for myself for this and about 5 minutes of questions at the end of it. If you do have any questions, please post them up. Marcel, you can Teams them over to me and I can try to answer any of those that you have. But the session here is actually aimed towards trying to answer as many questions, the most frequent questions that I get already. Right at the start of this, let's start off with the concept here that Sage 300 is not a true SaaS model. So it is not something that you can get in a browser. It is not something that is just delivered out to you by the publisher in a browser base. So if you do want it in a hosted model, what we can do and what is done is the turnkey hosting and implementation and access of it for you and for your staff. We can take your Sage 300 licenses and your data and host it for you. And this is exactly what the BAASS Cloud offer is. Companies that move to BAASS Cloud or are interested in it, they're usually the reasons for it. Items like they no longer want hardware on premise, or they no longer want to manage the security requirements, or they no longer want to manage the backup for it. Perhaps they've got some kind of an implementation going, an upgrade or something that new, and they don't want to have to worry about their own in-house IT or third-party IT working in conjunction with the ERP implementation. They just want their staff to be able to work, and they just want the flexibility to add users on the fly, etc. So they're looking to remove some of that complexity. So here, I'm going to review the BAASS Cloud and Sage 300 platform that we have, and this is hosting of that Sage 300 and how we try to deliver that to you. So what I'm going to want to discuss are what's available, how does it work, what's required to move to Sage, to move your Sage 300 ERP to our BAASS Cloud, answer common questions and any additional questions at the end. We can go start straight with, why do I need hosting? Most frequent reasons that I'm approached to discuss this and why the BAASS AMs are bring me in to have conversations. A lot of people there's something that's changing, whether it's on-prem and they're trying to, compare cost of implementation on-prem versus cloud. Possibly they're upgrading their server hardware, replacing hardware. They could be possibly doing a Sage 300 upgrade, which requires implementation of new servers or VMs and things on existing infrastructure, and they want to compare hosted against that. Maybe they're somebody doing a net new Sage 300 implementation, a brand new, and they don't want to have their own servers. I would say that in the past 12, 18 months, anybody who's purchasing Sage 300 net new, the first thing that they're going to is hosted. They're not even looking at implementing stuff on-prem. It's very rare that we would see that now. Other items, maybe, again, you could have a mandate from ownership, from the leadership committee here, just saying, we need to get rid of all on-prem and we need to move to cloud. So we don't actually need to do it today, but we need to in 12, 18, 24 months, we want to move to the cloud. And in order to do that, we've got to move our Sage 300. We've got to move our file shares. We've just got to move everything. So again, this is a reason why people come to us and have the conversation. And then, of course, there are peripheral reasons that are just as strong themselves, but are not usually the forefront. But these are definitely items that come up in the conversation, such as they want enhanced security, things that are more difficult to implement on their on-prem environment versus just putting it in a hosted in the cloud environment, where these siloed environments can be delivered with a lot more security process and items than can potentially be delivered as easily on-prem. They could want enhanced backups in the same frame, business continuity, which can be provided, very enhanced and turnkey in a hosted solution. They want access from anywhere. Again, if you've got everything implemented on-prem, then you've got and you have people working remote, you've got to implement solutions that'll enable your staff to connect to your office. If you go with a hosted solution, if you go with BAASS Cloud with your hosting of your Sage 300, by definition, work from home, work from anywhere, work from within your office, it's all connecting in the same way. That's already built into it. And again, people are asking for, hey, they just want turnkey so that their own IT don't have to be involved. It's the no muss, no fuss, no hassle type of delivery of the solution. So these are the sort of items that we deliver in our BAASS Cloud solution. And I will say this, state this out as well, that we're no different than you are. We use Sage 300, we use Sage CRM, we use third-party applications, we need work from home, we have multiple physical locations for offices, and we're coast to coast across Canada. So we have the same requirements as you do, and this is why we deliver our own ERP and Sage 300 in the exact same manner that we would deliver it out to you in our BAASS Cloud. How does something like this work? The question is, hey, how does this work? Does it look any different than what I'm used to? I can state and say to you that it all looks the same. We take your Sage 300 licenses and we install that software with your license and on our servers, copying your data, moving it over, and then delivering it out to you with remote desktop services and MFA for it. So the only thing, and many of you may already be familiar with remote desk services, that is the way that it needs to be installed and delivered. The only thing that is, it may be different than the way that we would be doing it than you would be doing on-prem, and our ability to do it are besides the comprehensive nature of the data center and co-location facility, but it's also the multi-factor authentication points. So our first point here is that, step one is we deny access to everyone from anywhere into it. And then we start from there. We whitelist it so that you can access it from your office and log in from there. And then we provide a method in which your employees are given that they can work from home or work from anywhere and work remote. So other than that, the solution itself, and back to the original question, is, does it look any different? And no, it doesn't. It looks the exact same. It is your Sage 300 in your application. So before I get into a little bit more of how it works, let me just show you the end user experience of connecting so that you can see what that would look like. And the solution itself, once they're connected into it in remote desktop services, it's your straight Sage 300. I mean, you use your web browser to get connection or access to it. We have a client app as well. You use your internet to connect, and you put in your 2FA off of your phone, a 6-digit code, key fob, or we have key fobs available as well so that you can access, and then you are into the Sage 300. A little video of exactly how that works. I'll play that for you right now. This is an example of me doing it from home and connecting into our own system, where the first step of authentication before I get into it is I come to the website here. I put in my username and my password. From there, I can now see the remote desktop server that's available. I authenticate against it. I am now logged in, and I can now go to the next step. From here, I can now access the RDS server. This is now something that's similar to what you would have potentially seen yourself. Here I'm doing the example of delivering in a web browser. I go to the URL. I type in my username. I type in my password. Once I've done that and I press login, it prompts me for my 6-digit code, which I'm given off of my phone. I type in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digit. And from there, I am now able to get into my remote desktop server. So that would be the experience and the only difference that you would potentially have when accessing it from outside. Once you're into it, I then double click on the remote desktop and I've got my applications. And these would be and look and appear and seem to you and your users exactly the same as it would using your normal Sage 300. You open up Sage, the functions are fully there. You navigate through it the exact same way. You open, close, and data entry, everything all the same. So very quickly here, just before I go on, I'm going to break that down into simple steps here. Again, from outside of the office, I go to this authentication page. I put in my username and password. It allows me to get in, where from there I am then able to get to my remote desktop server. I put in my username and password. It does prompt me for 2FA. I'm then able to see my remote desktop apps, and I can open my Sage 300. And that is as quick and as easy as it gets. So seeing that's the connection method, start to peel it back. If people understand that it's very easy to get into and it's all the same applications that you would normally have, that's when I start to get into the questions of, hey, how does this actually work? How does this actually work? So again, we take your Sage 300 and we install it on this remote desktop server. This has not changed. So for hosted Sage 300, it's installing exactly like that. We take your Sage 300, your licenses, we copy your data over. We also have the ability that if you've got third-party applications, we're able to deploy it in this hosted solution. This is a big item. The ecosystem for Sage on the third-party apps is very deep and very extensive. And I'm not going to start naming a lot of them off here because that'll be remiss in some of the vendors that are very important that you see quite often. But anything from you pick your EFT vendor, printing vendor assistance, and things like that, just to name a couple, those can be brought into this. And then we provide all the licensing, Windows Server, SQL, software, backups, business continuity, and all of those items. And then I'm often asked, hey, where's my data? All of the data here, the co-locations and the facilities that we use, from everything from the hosting to the business continuity and backup data, it's all retained here in Canada. Everything is in data centers and co-locations here in Canada. The backups themselves, we have 4 points of recovery for them. They are backups local to the hardware, backups in the co-location facility, backups to alternate hardware within the co-location facility, and then backups that are sent off-site, outside of that facility, and then backups that are sent off-site out of that facility into out-of-province location storage. And the off-site backups that we have are enterprise level, vendor managed, separated from us. And the reason for that is so that there is data separation and recoverability, so that not even if my own team were to press the delete buttons, the data is retained for another 90 days. Trying to make this as comprehensive and redundant as possible, so that in the event of an issue, we're able to get things back. And scalability, add users, add storage, if you need to add servers, if you're adding on third parties, if you want to add on its web solutions to it, we absolutely have the ability. This is the benefit of doing data center and co-location, the scalability of such an environment. And with that, we also we provide the support. It's all turnkey. So, we're asked, hey, what is it that we have to do on our end? How does this work? Well, we support the platform, we support the backup, we support the security, we support your users. All you need to do is provide your own, PCs and internet and your connectivity into the solution itself. And from there, it's all just remote access. And for the management of the solution itself, again, if you're already partners with BAASS, they're your Sage partner of record. They're the people that you would trust to be implementing your Sage 300. We're the infrastructure and internal group for them. There is no outside source. It's all of us, both for infrastructure and the ERP managing the solution. So it's all of our own internal resources that are doing this. I'm going to summarize this here because I think I apologize. I'm running out of time. I've only got about 7 minutes. Summarize here. This is very simple. You're able to connect from home. There's turnkey support. It's scalable. You can add users. You can remove users on the fly. You can scale up. You can scale down. We take care of the licensing for you. Our own team takes care of all the infrastructure and support for it. And when I'm asked, how would I actually move to something like that? This is not terribly hard at all. While you're continuing to work on and using your existing environment, we are able to implement these servers to run your version of software and licensing in tandem. So we spin them up, we implement the servers, Sage is installed, your license is applied, we transfer the data over, you test it, confirm that it works, and then we have a cutover. And from that point forward, your users are then, we can test and confirm that they're all able to connect beforehand, are all using this type of a solution, making this kind of a transition very easy. There's no heavy lifting on your part in any way, shape, or form. There's no implementation of hardware or services at your end. Nope. Spin up the environments and get everybody connected, and now it's just working. So we provide that turnkey, scalable, secure solution to your hosted Sage 300. If you're interested, if there's any further questions or more technical questions on something like that, please do reach out to me. If anybody had any interest in receiving any information, a quote, or even just a conversation about it, reach out to your BAASS account manager or email sales@BAASS. And trying to keep this on time to the last 5 minutes, and I will look through some of these questions that have come over. And in Teams, I apologize, here I go. Explain the security. All right. I'll take that as, so on the security side of it, there could be a very technical end to it, and I can get someone to go into greater detail with anybody who wants to contact us one-on-one, but a brief description that I would use to summarize this. The servers are dedicated VMs. They're per customer. There is no multi-tenant anything. There's no multi-tenant SQL. There's no multi-tenant Active Directory. The virtual networks for every customer are all dedicated in their own. There's no mixing or between customers in any way, shape, or form. We implement multi-factor authentication for the remote desktop server, and we whitelist your office and have that firewall auth that I showed for home users to block people that shouldn't be seeing it from getting in, from even seeing it. And if you are able to get in, not only do you need to know the password, but you have to have the 2FA code off your phone. And that 2FA for login is from smartphone, or we have key fobs as well. For those of you that may not have employees that have the ability or desire to use their own phones for the 2FA, we have the ability to provide key fobs as well. We provide the management of the servers and the lockdown for it. So you have no local admin access. Essentially, you get into it, you use your apps, you close it, and that's it. Again, reducing the danger or using that theory of least privilege. And obviously, we use the standard solutions that you would think of in antivirus and anti-malware. Those are obvious, but we also provide in software vendor and solutions for web content filters. For EDR and MDR, that's early detection and response, and managed detection and response. So these are managed security solutions outside of my own management team that I use third-party security SOC to monitor these servers 24/7, looking for anything that is suspicious in any way, shape, or form. And then finally, on the last line of defense is going to be the separated multiple points of backups, separated even from ourselves and our own ability to get at them, so that we've got some final defense and failover for that. And again, if anybody has any further question or wants to get into detail about which solutions there are, what are the vendors, we're more than happy to provide transparency on that in a one-on-one environment. Cyber policy wants two-factor authentication. Does this meet it? Okay. Does my cyber policy requires two-factor authentication? Do you have it? Yes. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. When in cyber policies now we're being asked for key line of business applications or critical data, that everything be walled off with two-factor authentication before you can access it. And that's exactly what that is, our 2FA off of our phones before you can actually get into the solution. That'll meet that requirement. Next, updates on servers. Who does? We do all of the updates on the servers. So the Windows servers, again, that's part of the turnkey management. We manage the Windows servers, the operating system, and the patch management. This is done weekly. All Windows security and critical updates are automatically applied in a regularly scheduled maintenance window. That scheduled maintenance window happens again every week, and the only time that we deviate or move from that is upon a previously edited request to accommodate a special request by a customer who has some maybe time zone things. But yes, absolutely, we manage all of that and put that in all the Windows and security patches for you. Is the co-location your own? No, it is not. So we, just like you, using ourselves for this, like example, the hosting of Sage 300, we use a professional co-location facility to put our hosting environment into. We use Central Logic in the Toronto area. It's Tier 3 plus. We use their Tier 3 plus data center in Toronto. And the alternate data sites for the offsite backups are also data centers, third-party data centers for, again, their enterprise level backup solutions in Markham, Ontario, and out in Alberta. How do you track user activity on the servers? So we can't trace I can trace log on and log off activity for users who come into the environment and report back for the last 60 days. But anything that you want to do within Sage, you would need to use a third-party tool like an audit logger. So there's a third-party audit log that allows for that, and that's what I would suggest for the Sage. All right, so I've come to the end of my time. I've come to the end of my questions as well. Again, if anything else comes in, please don't hesitate. If you have any comments or questions, reach out to a BAASS account manager, email sales@baass.com, or email me, jsmith@lineco.ca, or jsmith@baass also works. And that is the end of my session. Try to keep it right on time.